Welcome to a special episode of Character Creation Cast, everyone. Before we get to the answers for all of your questions, just a quick announcement. The AcadeCon 2019 Kickstarter is underway right now. We will have a link in the show notes, but if you go to Kickstarter and search for AcadeCon 2019, you should find it relatively easily. They're going pretty aggressive with the goal this year in order to remain profitable. And if you liked the extra space last year for pickup games and whatnot, you'll want to get in on the Kickstarter, since those extra rooms are only going to be available as stretch goals past the main goal. So let's see if we can get them there. That'd be awesome. We both really would like to make it there again this year, as it is an absolutely wonderful convention. It's small, it's so personable, and the people there are just generally wonderful. We'll probably talk about it more next episode once Amelia is back, but until then, check it out. It'll be great to see you there too. No more announcements for this episode, and it is quite a long one. I apologize for that, but the conversation was delightful. So let's get on the show, shall we? Enjoy. Welcome to a special episode of Character Creation Cast. Almost exactly 1 year ago today, we released episode 0 to tell you what this podcast was going to be all about. Since then, we've evolved into something greater than our original vision. We've added the Character Evolution Cast episodes, Character Creation Spotlight episodes, and we've been planning some amazing bonus content that we hope to start delivering to our patrons very soon.
It has been an exciting journey. I think that this is not at all where we expected to be. Mm-mm. I'm not sure where we expected to be, but sure as heck wasn't here. So it's been a crazy year, Ryan. I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud of the community that we've built around this show. I'm excited about the crazy amount of episodes that we've put out.
I know.
And our original vision for this podcast, it was going to be once a month. And maybe if we got crazy, twice a month.
Well, There's
been some months where we've released 5 episodes now.
I know.
I mean, we maybe got a little big for our britches at some point. But I mean, I'm proud of us, and we've gotten to talk to some really great people. We've gotten to do some amazing things. Like, I think I never envisioned that we would get to sit down with James D'Amato. I was freaking out about that. Ryan got to sit in a car with me for the 2.5-hour drive to Chicago and watch me be like, like breathing into a paper bag for like 2 weeks before we did that. We got to talk with Grant Howitt. Thank you, Grant, for staying up until 4 a.m. to talk to us.
That was awesome.
We just gotten to do so much cool stuff, like things that I never thought that we would get to do when we first started planning this podcast.
Yeah,
it's been a journey.
Yeah, and huge thanks to the guests that hopped onto the train before we even released an episode.
Yes, I mean, like Alex Roberts agreeing to sit down with us before we even had episodes for her to listen to find out what we were talking about. I know, like, early on, we had a few people who are also podcasters who, you know, believed in us and believed in what we were doing, but getting to sit down with a game designer that early before she had any clue what we were even about.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for being such a good sport, Alex. Those are still some of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Hands down.
They were
so good.
So amazing. Some absolutely amazing discussion, those episodes. The folks from Protean City were absolutely wonderful. I still remember those episodes very fondly. And then Neil from the Dungeon Masters block and Tall Squall from Encounter Roleplay agreeing to be our first guests. And Tall Squall being a last minute guest at that, which was awesome.
Yes, that was so great that he agreed to do. I mean, it was like a day or two before. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be on your podcast. So you haven't even started yet. Like, oh, man. And I can still hear like how nervous we were in those episodes too. We've gotten a lot better. We've built up some rapport.
My wife actually started playing episode 1.1 while we were doing dishes the other day. And I was like, wait, this is the first episode. Oh my goodness, we sound so nervous. We sound so like, rehearsed and I don't know.
That's because we had rehearsed that one, Ryan. We rehearsed that episode twice before we ever put it out.
We really did.
I started editing those and we sound bad. We sound bad.
Oh, I can imagine. But you know, it's really interesting seeing what we started from and where we've come in this past year, and I'm really proud of both of us for growing into actual podcasters. Yeah,
we've grown a lot. We've learned a lot over the past year. And you know, like I said, I think this is not at all where we thought things would be. I am so glad we're here, though.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I think we're on an awesome path.
I think so. And as part of our 1 year anniversary, we wanted to take some time to see what all of you wanted to hear about. So we solicited some listener questions because we thought it would be fun to do like a little mailbag episode.
Oh, yeah.
Normally we ask the questions. So we thought maybe we would let other people ask us questions this time. We have about 25 questions from people that we're going to go through. You know, some are more helpful than others. But you know what? We are going to do our best.
You know, they're all helpful from some perspective.
All right. Are you ready to dive in?
I am ready to dive in. Let's get this going.
Okay. So the first question is from my most of the time friend, Jude, who you can hear on one of our Character Evolution Cast episodes, as well as on my podcast with him, Garbage of the Five Rings. And he asks, which host makes the most mouth noises that need to be edited out? Ryan?
You know, maybe early on, I would say probably me.
You did a lot of breathing, but you've now built your monster box.
There was a lot of weird, like, you could hear every little breath that I made and every little mouth noise that I made. But now that I've had this box crafted, that's helped out tremendously. And honestly, we've gotten so much better at our mic technique that...
Yeah, we have pretty good mic etiquette, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time that I had to edit out like distinct mouth noises from either of us.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of talking with my hands, and so I have a tendency to whack my microphone. That's probably my biggest problem, and I do notice that I do that a lot.
Yeah.
When I'm editing myself for this podcast, for Garbage of the Five Rings, whatever.
Right,
I tend to whack my hands into my microphone. Most of the time now, our mouth noises are on purpose, specifically so that we can cut them out of the episode and send them directly to Jude. Because he does that to me when he records Athrobeth with Steph. And somehow Steph has gotten drawn into it. And Steph, I know that you and Jude have been friends for a long time, but I want you to know that he's a really bad influence and you should not listen to him. Do not make those mouth noises. So really, I want to say that Jude is actually the worst about mouth noises. Jude is way worse than you, Ryan. Like, having to edit an episode with him, I have asked him like 12 different times to please turn down his gain or drink some water or something, because that dude makes the most mouth noises I've ever heard in my life.
There's a lot of
purposefully or not. So, to answer your question, Jude, it's you. Even though you're not on this episode, you still make the most mouth noises on these episodes.
You know what? I just thought,
we shouldn't roast people who send us questions.
No, perfectly fine. Jude, bad mouth noises. Stop doing it. No, when I edit now, and this might be interesting to some listeners, when I edit, I actually look ahead of where it's actually playing, and I can almost see the waveforms of like bad audio, whether it be a blip or a tick or something like that before somebody talks. And if it looks like it's going to be really prominent, I'll cut it before I even get to it.
Oh, interesting. See, I find that I can't do that as much because you tend to do like the nod of approval in audio form of like, Oh,
Yep.
yeah. And so, like, I can never tell because you do them very quietly.
Yeah.
And so I can never tell if that is like a little blip of like a sound or if it's actually you being like, oh, yeah. And so, like, I can do it on pretty much everybody else's tracks, but not yours. Because, like, mine, I'll go through and it's like anything that is under a certain size, I'm just like, silence that because it's probably just me, like, whacking the microphone or drinking some water or something. I do think that the more you edit of a certain person, the easier it is to tell their vocal tics. So I can tell what your ums and uhs look like.
Yep.
Now.
I've got yours down by visual memory as well. So
Exactly. And I know, like, even when I edit for Garbage with 5 Rings too, I can sort of anticipate like what things. Jude and I both have this habit of like pausing in the middle of sentences and then starting up again.
Yeah.
And so I can easily cut those. I can tell, oopsie, I just whacked my microphone again. But you can, the more you edit a certain person, the easier it is to see what those things look like because you kind of memorize the waveforms. It's a little bit harder for this show because we always have guests.
I actually found it takes me about 3 or 4 ums before I recognize a guest's waveform pattern.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. It doesn't take us a ton of time. I think it's just not quite as easy as it is to tell what yours are or mine are.
Here comes another
Here come the ums.
All right. Well, let's see. What's the next question? We've got Tavern Tales Podcast, which is actually probably Kyle Gould, one of our good friends. He asks, you've accomplished so much in such a short time already. You're an amazing duo with wonderful chemistry.
Not a question, Kyle.
I know. It is leading to a question, though.
Okay.
What are your first 3 considerations when you start making a character?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting. So for me, I guess I should clarify. When we're doing it for this show, I think I do it a little bit differently than I do when I'm sitting at a table.
Yeah.
Because I know outright that this is not a character I'm going to have to play. If we ever got to a point where, like, we had the time to record and edit actual plays based off of these characters that we make, I would be in so much trouble. Because I love to pick, like, these really wild combinations and make these really terrible character decisions because I know that they have no consequences.
But it's interesting.
It is interesting. And I think what I like to do is I like to start by asking myself, what is this game trying to do? Like, what kind of story is this game designed to tell? And then I like to try and lean pretty heavily into that. Yeah. Because I think that I find the best character moments, and really, if it did come down to playing the game, I would have the best time playing a character that really integrated well with the kind of story that this system is trying to tell. Because I think every system is designed to do something and to tell certain kinds of stories. And, you know, we go back and forth. It's not to say that you can't tell other kinds of stories, but it certainly will do things better. Yeah. In some ways. And so I think I always try to start by, like, figuring out what that is and to try and lean into that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting because, I hadn't really thought about this in terms of how I approach character creation for this podcast specifically.
This is a question we ask everybody, so like, I feel like we should know, but
we kind of answered in episode 0, but not really. I mean, we've grown since then, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have now made more characters. Like, I certainly have anyway. Yeah. While doing this podcast than I have prior to making this podcast, right? So, like, in the last year, I have made vastly more characters than I had made in the 29 years before making this podcast.
And I know we're probably not going to catch up to my number because of my infamous...
Because you're one bad Palladium.
My 5-month drought of once a week playing and once a week losing a character.
Oof, man.
Yeah, that was a lot. Plus all the other characters that I made prior that were or were not played. But for this podcast specifically, I would say ever since a very infamous Dirge Stranglethorn was conceived and created, I have approached character creation as if, you know how they say in one-shots, play your characters as if you're driving a stolen car?
Absolutely.
I've kind of approached creating characters as if driving a stolen jet.
I love that. I've noticed that about you too, though, that since I don't want to take all the credit for it, but I'm going to take some of the credit for it. Since I forced you to make an evil, quote unquote, evil character, that it has certainly changed some of the decisions that you've made.
Yep. All right. I have to spill a little bit of a secret here.
Okay.
It was that combined with Senda saying something during the Headspace episodes.
Oh, because we had that whole discussion where we were like, I was like, look at, you can't do it. And she was like, no, Ryan, you have to make a bad character. And you're like, well, they're a little bit bad. And she's like, no, a bad character.
Yep. So yeah.
It was very hard for you. You've grown so much.
I have. And I am very thankful that I got pushed into that direction, because I believe the characters that I made since then have been pretty darn interesting.
Yeah, I think you've made some really cool stuff. I wish that I could say that I've had like that moment of growth, but I'm just going to pretend it's because I was already all the way up at the top.
I think so too. Plus, I mean, okay, you tried to make the Goody Two-Shoes character for Heroes Unlimited, but I mean, let's be real, that's probably...
We were playing with Jeff and John, so...
and that, plus, if you're going to be making a character for a system that's outside your comfort zone, make it for a system that's good.
Touche. I'm not going to argue with you on that.
Yep. Because it's like, all right, I mean, I can make this super bland, like, good character, but it's Heroes Unlimited.
So do you think that's like one of your first considerations now when you make a character is, am I going to make a good character or not?
I don't think so right now. I think it's more of, okay, so my process now probably for creating a character that I'm actually going to play, I still kind of fall back into the what can my character do first and foremost. And then I kind of dive into the backstory of the character afterwards. And then into the bonds, how they bond into the rest of the group.
I would say that first thing, like I said, is what kind of stories is this system meant to tell? I think the second thing that I like to do is I love to look at like the flaws or like the negative qualities that you can pick for your characters, because I've always felt that once you start picking those positive and negative qualities in almost every single system that I have played, to me, that is where the character becomes a person, is once you start adding those like positive and negative traits. And so really like, and I think that like for me, the negative ones always seem to flesh them out more as a person. So I think I go for that. And then third, I like to look at, you know, how they interact with the other people in the group, because that's always been a really important part of a game to me. I hate games where you go in and are like, well, I guess we'll figure out how we know each other later. Yeah. Like, I don't like those kinds of games. And I know plenty of people do. And that's super awesome for you. Not my kind of thing. Right. I like to have, like, character strings that I can pull on. Yeah. I generally search, like, hard for inspiration from pretty much all of the rules surrounding character creation in a game, if I have the time. Yeah. And that's... Was that something that you did before? Or is that something that you sort of opened your eyes to now that we've been... That's something I've always kind of done. It's, before we started this podcast, before I even had, my first child about a little over 3 years ago, my friends and I had started up role-playing again, in Palladium system. And, when I created my Heroes Unlimited character, who I absolutely love, and she's a kind of dark, which you still don't believe, but I don't. But I literally I knew she was going to be a superhero with superpowers, but I didn't know what powers or what sort of theme. So I literally read 4 books full of superpowers for Palladium system, power by power, and finally I got like a couple of them stood out, and then I honed in and like I found the theme based on 2 different powers, and then I built the character around that basically. I think that I've always loved making characters. I've always found it interesting, and like it's always been my favorite part of playing a role-playing game. Mm-hmm. I don't think that I thought about the mechanics of it the way that I do now after doing this podcast. I think part of that is because I hadn't played such a wide variety of games. And I have been working more in the past couple of years, like going to conventions and that kind of thing, to play new and different games. And obviously we explore a lot of different games with this show. But I think before that, I had made a lot of characters in a couple of systems. Mm-hmm. So I kind of knew how the mechanics worked in those games, and I knew how to get to character creation through that. But I think that it's something that I've learned a lot more about, and I've learned more like what I do and don't like in character creation by looking at a lot more systems. Mm-hmm. And I think I've also learned to start pulling things from games that I do like and saying, I like the way this works. I like the way this thing works. Mm-hmm. We've looked at a couple Powered by the Apocalypse games, and that's the thing that I want to bring into the game that I'm planning on running for Gen Con, is rather than having pre-generated characters, I want to have like a couple of choices that players can make about their own characters, because I think that it adds, a connection to the things that you're doing. And so that's one thing that's really changed about the way that I build characters, is just the way that I look at the process as a whole. Yeah. I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know that my latest character that I created was for Dungeons and Dragons that I'm actually playing now. Because I actually joined a group that is playing on a regular now, which I'm very happy about. And I incorporated a romantic storyline in their background because of the romance episode that we did.
Yeah.
And my goodness, we did our first session. It was like a session 0.5 kind of. Mm-hmm. That was going over the bonds that we had all selected. So it would give us a good like role-playing feel towards the bonds. And my character got a double whammy of sadness because of it.
Oh, and nice.
Yeah, it was pretty satisfying.
I love those sad stories.
Yeah, so I've got a sad boy who was split from his twin sister, and also lost his childhood sweetheart because he had to be sent away across the continent to go to some temple for training or something or another.
But not because his love was eaten by dinosaurs?
No. This is a very serious game.
I'm sorry. Your family being eaten by a Tyrannosaurus is very serious.
It's very sad. Why aren't you more sad?
I'm deeply saddened.
Okay.
Should we go on to the next question?
Yeah, let's.
All right, so this one is from Dwayne. Mm-hmm. And Dwayne says, what is your opinion of the group making characters with no knowledge of what anyone else is doing? I understand that player balance is important, but is there something more authentic with random characters meeting in a bar? How realistic that group of random strangers all fill specific roles? I have opinions on it.
Hey, me too. I have many thoughts.
Yeah. So I think I'll start by saying, like I say often on this show, you do you. Mm-hmm. Follow your heart. Do what feels great. I definitely think that you can have a game where people are random strangers meeting in a bar.
Yeah.
That's fine. I do know that I said it, I think, early on in one of our episodes, that I don't like that. It doesn't feel super authentic to me because maybe it's just growing up as a woman in the world, but like, heck, I am going to meet up with a bunch of strangers and go on an adventure with them when most of them are carrying swords. Not gonna happen. Doesn't feel realistic to me. If someone has a sword, I'm walking the other way. Yeah. Even if I also have a sword, meeting someone in a weird dark corner of a bar is not my idea of a good time. Mm-hmm. I think you can tell stories like that. I think especially if you go into it knowing that that's the kind of story that you can tell. I think that there are lots of ways that you can set it up as the story of the game is the story of those people getting to know each other.
Yes.
I think that that's a very specific kind of narrative, and I think it's one that you can definitely lean into. Mm-hmm. I personally believe that if you decide to play a game where the people don't know each other and they aren't they aren't friends before and you don't have those bonds, then that needs to be the kind of story that you tell. You need to go into it knowing that the narrative of this game is the story of these people getting to know each other.
Yes.
I don't think that you can just sort of assume a bond.
Yeah, 100%. I pretty much growing up have only played campaigns that have started where we all make our characters by ourselves and then tell the game master, hey, these are our characters. This is our personal backgrounds that we've created for these characters. And then the game master literally would have to write reasons for why we would all meet and why we would all want to stay together. And kind of it generally took between 1 and 5 sessions to actually get to the part where we were all a group and finally on the quest to do what we need to do or whatever. And that's hard. It's a little unfair, to say, here's all the work I did on my character and now you have to do the rest to get me into the group and make me care.
Yeah, I think that that's a lot to put on a game master. I think it's a lot to say, I mean, because you have to remember that you're not the only one doing that. It's you and 4 or 5 other people also doing that to the game master, showing up and saying, here, I poured my heart and soul into this character. I made this great person that I'm really excited to play. Now, you figure out how they fit into the world and how they go along with all these other people without messing up the story for me or for any of those other people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. And I think that it's really hard too, because you have to remember that a lot of times the game master's also going in with some level of, here's the story I want to tell. And so I think that you end up with a lot of people butting heads and people not quite getting to tell the stories that they want to tell because you kind of end up shouting over each other, I think, to try and get your moment in the spotlight and have your thing.
I think if you're at that depth of what sort of story you want to tell, then most definitely you can butt heads over how you want the story to kind of evolve with the group. I
think that's a good point. I think that maybe not everybody's going in with that level of like narrative desire, maybe.
Exactly. Like my thoughts with this, because I have a lot of experience in this part. I personally love it. Because it's, I used to love it. Because when I went into a game, it was more of my character is my character up until this point, and everything past the point where we start is my character growing, and that's their story regardless of what happens. If I have to go along with other people for their mission, and if I don't really have a set mission from the get-go, which quite honestly we never really did. We just had like little nuggets in our backstories that the game master, we basically fed the game master, here's some little nuggets that you can throw into the adventures, and whatever, we'll be happy if it happens like 20 sessions from now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely does matter, like, what expectations you go into a game with. Because if you want a really narrative-driven, character-driven, like, you want, like, this really heartfelt kind of story, I think that meeting in a bar doesn't work.
Exactly.
I think that if you're, like, going in wanting adventure and cool excitement and, really big, powerful enemies to fight and things like that...
Yeah.
It probably can work really well. And so I think that probably is a difference in what you want out of a game.
Yes.
Like I said in the beginning. And I think for me, that second kind is not really the kind of game that I've ever wanted to play. I've always much preferred those like narrative, character-driven stories. And so that doesn't work for me. But I think that, there's room to remember that not everybody is looking for that in a game. And so meeting in a bar probably is fine.
Yeah. And
I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's more authentic. I think it can work fine. I don't really ever see a situation where I'm like, yeah, this is better.
Right.
But that could just be me.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to go about it. And it's kind of funny because I was thinking of the Galaxy Brain meme. When we're talking about this, it's okay, you've got the lowest level of Everybody creates their characters separately, and then we play. And then there's the next level of everybody creates their characters collaboratively. And then the ultimate level of world building collaboratively.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
And it really,
I think to you and I, that's like the whoa,
yeah, exactly,
like angelic singing moments. And I have a hard time remembering sometimes that like not everybody wants that. Some people just want a game where you go and you swing a sword and you kill people.
It's very true.
Great.
Yeah. The types
Live
of
your
fun.
dream. It's just a sort of like my brain just doesn't click there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a hard time getting there because it's not something I've ever really wanted to do. And so I have a hard time just getting into that.
Yeah.
Into that mental space, I think.
See, I've had such an exposure to the 90s style gameplay that I kind of crave that at times where it's like I want the crunch. Sometimes I want the like measurements on a battle map and like circle of effect spell things and pure strategy of how can we take this thing down with the least amount of collateral damage sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I've played those games and I just like which actually I think probably is a good nice segue to our next question actually.
Oh yeah. Have you ever played a character that you've had a hard time getting into? This question brought to us by Nate Hastings.
Yes, I have. I have not played a lot of characters. I have, done a couple one-shots at cons, and I think the ones that like one-shots are not things that I necessarily think of as, like, getting into a character, because I've played some good ones, but I don't know that you ever feel, like, super attached. Mm-hmm. So thinking back to, like, campaigns that I've played, I've only played a few.
Yeah.
But when I played D&D, I just could not get into it. And it was for a couple of reasons. Partly because my group was just not a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. But I knew that the kind of game that they were going to play was going to be that, like, sort of tactical, like, how much damage can you do in a round, min-maxing, mm-hmm. like,
hack and slash,
avoiding negative consequences. Yeah. And so going into this game, said, okay, well, I'm going to play a character who at least feels useful, mm-hmm. right? Because I was like, I'm not going to play some kind of, like, interesting to me, like, backstabbing dark mage, some kind of, because that was never going to come up and I wouldn't get the chance to have those character moments mm-hmm. of doing all the backstabbing and things like that because it wasn't the kind of game we were playing. Yeah. So I opted to play a fighter. I played a human fighter, and my God, could I swing a sword. I killed a dragon in session 5.
Oh, wow.
It was great. But I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't having fun because it was like, okay, I roll, I swing my sword. Oh, look, I get to swing my sword again. Oh, I crit on 19s and 20s. Ooh. So if I crit, I get to go again. I swing my sword real hard. Yep. Like, it just was not my thing. And again, there are plenty of people that love that kind of mm-hmm. game. Pretty much everybody else at my table was having a great time with that. I was not. So it's kind of a bummer. I wish that, like, that was also my first time ever playing D&D. Mm-hmm. So I have this sort of personal, like, I don't want to say vendetta against it, but the sort of personal, like, I haven't really played a game of D&D where I was like, wow, this is super great. Mm-hmm. I totally get why people love this. I'm still sort of in the, oh, people like this because it's the game that they know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say 5th edition is definitely better. And under the right GM that doesn't, like, do all the tactical stuff, that puts story over combat, mm-hmm. I think you could have a lot of fun with that. If you were presented. Yeah, I mean,
we were playing 5th edition. This was only like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Min-maxing in 5th edition.
What?
Min-maxing in 5th edition? That hurts my brain.
It's, hey, we've talked about my group.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I mean, so that was a hard character that I just had a hard time getting into because I built them not because they were a character that I wanted to play, but because I wanted to play.
Yes.
And I think that's a key difference.
That is a huge difference, yes.
What about you?
For myself, it was a relatively recent character that I created. It was I was starting to do effectively like play by post, but it was play by what is that thing called? Marco Polo, Play by Marco Polo.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So which was really interesting because you got to actually like role play, you got to see people's faces. The weird part about it was you don't get the real-time reactions with everybody. Uh-huh. So it was a little bit harder to get into the character of things, but you got to think about what you wanted to say or do before you actually posted it, which was cool. But I created a dwarven barbarian, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And my thought was I want to be able to have this character that was, you know, powerful, but also has like a family that they care about and they don't want to lose, and they don't want to lose their life because they've got something to live for. And all sorts of interesting like character background and all that sort of stuff. I couldn't get into the whole rage concept for some reason. I don't know. I don't.
Wait, I'm sorry, Ryan. I am utterly shocked by the idea that you couldn't rage.
I know, right?
Wow.
It's just unbelievable.
Who'd have thought? God bless you.
So that was the probably the major hang up. The other issue was when we started, it was everybody create your characters and then we'll start and we'll make sure everybody gets together. And then it turns out we all had amnesia at the beginning. So all of my background didn't really matter at that point. So it was harder to get into character, and the composition of the group was totally different from what I was used to. So like the actual characters themselves. So there was a lot of potential there for inter-party conflict, like a lot of inter-party conflict that I wasn't the most comfortable with at that point. So it was hard to lean into.
Yeah, it sounds like there were like any one of those things like you probably could have worked around, but it seems like a perfect storm of like,
Yeah, I kind of piled onto it, and I wasn't really, I wasn't totally into it, but I was kind of committed to, you know, doing this and seeing where it went. But then life just got like massively busy. And
like it does.
And you have a new kid and all that other fun stuff happens.
Kids don't take up any time.
I know, right? So, I mean, it could have turned out to be pretty interesting if we, you know, had gotten our memories back relatively soon and figured out what the heck was going on and whatnot. It had some good promise, but it was just like, not totally feeling this character right now. And if I could swap to a new character, I might enjoy this better, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes you just have those games that, like, it's just not clicking for you, and that's, you know, that's fine.
And that happens.
It happens.
It does. Mm-hmm. Although I think a good session 0 probably would have fixed most of it.
I think for both of us, a lot of our complaints would have been solved by a quality session 0.
Which you can see our session 0 document at session0.charactercreationcast.com.
Or our Session 0 episodes, Character Evolution Cast Episode 6, and our safety episode, Character Evolution Cast Episode 7.
Both are linked in our Character Creation Cast Session 0 document at...
Oh, gosh. The audacity of plugging our own show on our own show. Woo. It's showception.
Hey, this is our anniversary episode. We make the rules.
We could do whatever we want.
Can't we do that every time?
Yeah, I mean, technically.
I guess you're right.
Correct. It's my show. I'll do what I want. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. I do want to cry sometimes. Okay, next question. So this question is from Ree, who you can hear on a previous episode. Ree is the GM for the Magpies podcast, which you can hear on our Blades in the Dark series or on their podcast, The Magpies, which is very good. Ree asks, is there a genre you haven't gotten to create characters for yet that you really want to create characters for?
Yeah.
I've been trying to think about this, and I don't know if I have a good answer. What about you? I
would have said cyberpunk prior to this last series.
Interesting. Because I was thinking about that too, because for me, what I'm craving and like the thing that I would like to do if I ever got the time to do like another actual play, I am craving like a really dark, gritty cyberpunk.
I would love that.
And obviously that is not what we got with Neoscope because it's not what they do. Like I love what they do, but it is not dark and gritty.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we got a little bit of that with our Headspace episodes.
Yeah.
So I think I still have a little bit of a craving to do something like that. And that's really kind of where my mind went at first. I don't want to say that I've never gotten to do it.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten close, but I haven't really gotten like the really dark grittiness that I want from a cyberpunk.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Headspace does have that cyberpunky sort of feel, but it doesn't, it didn't feel like the traditional, well, because I think Shadowrun when I think cyberpunk or Blade Runner or whatnot.
Yeah, I think Altered Carbon.
Oh, yeah. Altered Carbon. I heard good things about that.
Yeah. So, like when I think of, like, that dark, gritty stuff, I think of something like Blade Runner or Altered Carbon or something like that, like, where it's just, like, really dark, dystopian kind of, and that's, like, that's an area that I really would like to explore more, that I feel like we've gotten kind of close and we've played around in that genre a little bit, but not to that degree.
Yeah.
Not that particular mood within that genre.
Yeah, and surprising to some, I actually want to be in that super dark and gritty cyberpunk space as well. Like I am surprised. I would love, oh my gosh, I would love to be in a dark, gritty, like, you know, pseudo-realistic cyberpunk sort of drama game.
Oh gosh, I'm like dying to do it. And like there's a couple people that I would love to play that game with that I know that would be like down to do that really dark, really serious kind of thing. And like, man, adults need more time in the day.
It's so true.
That's really where I'm stuck is like, oh, if I had more hours in the day.
It's gonna be like 15 years from now, and we'll finally have time and we'll be like, you want to start that podcast? About like cyberpunk and like super dark and gritty. But then that'll be like the actual world we're living in, so we won't want to play that game anymore. You never know. The eternal optimist. Yeah. But aside from cyberpunk, my thought would be something slice of life, like total opposite cyberpunk. Oh, interesting. Like Bree Sheldon's Turn, which is it's kind of an quote unquote urban fantasy mixed with slice of life sort of deal. Yeah. But something that's like totally mundane sort of deal. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, there's so many good games out there, and like I really struggled when I think about like what genre I'd want to do, because I think that you sort of think that there are only so many genres, you know, but even just looking at the difference in the kinds of like cyberpunk games that we would want to play, I think that there's, you know, a wide variety there. And, you know, I was thinking like, okay, well, like magical girl games. Okay. So, you know, you could create your magical girl in L5R. You could create your magical girl in Chimera. Yep. You know, Emily Reinhart has her Domina Magica. Yep, Domina Magica game. Yep. And so, like, I think and all of those are going to do it a little bit differently. Yeah. And so I think it's a little confusing or like sort of overwhelming when I just go genre. I don't know. We've done most genres, but it's like, no, I think when you go into like subgenres, there are things that we would like to do. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. There are very few things that I'm like, I don't want to create a character for that. Right. I think, honestly, the things that I'm, like, least interested in doing are, like, basic fantasy. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, because it's like, so... Been there, done that? It's so... European? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, yeah. It's... Okay, there's a lot of problems with the traditional basic fantasy as presented. Yeah. And I'm specifically thinking Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, whatever. Dungeon World kind of falls into that a little bit. There's some issues with the world that is built around those things. And it's hard to fully get into that unless you ignore a lot of the issues. But on top of that, it's cookie cutter, I guess is a word.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel particularly original. Like, I think that there are so many, and maybe it's just because we think about, like, D&D as, like, the, quintessential fantasy game. And I think that it's been around so long that it's just, they're still making new additions, and people are certainly still doing interesting things with it. But I think I get sort of, like, D&D fatigue of, like, there are so many other cool, interesting things that we could also be doing, because, like, there's a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money. And, it's like, I want to try other things. Yeah. And so I think that that's one of those, like, again, I keep going back to, like, if that's what works for you, live it up, have fun. I think for me, there's just other things that I'm more interested in trying with the limited amount of time that I have. Yeah.
On the other hand, just started a D&D campaign, as I mentioned earlier. And the world that was presented to us and the high concept of that campaign that was presented to us was so fascinating that there was like no way I could pass it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, I mean, you can totally do new and interesting things with it. I think that just like at its base form, I'm like, meh. Yeah.
No, I get that. It's very bland, I guess.
And just like, I think we're at a point where it's starting to get saturated, where you have to do something fun and interesting with it to make it better.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this next one is coming at us from Je ne sais quoi, which I still love that name so much.
Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. They asked us, tell us about one character you've played that has made all the difference in turning a good campaign into a great one. Not a question, but we'll accept it.
I'll allow it. Overruled. I guess I haven't played that many campaigns. I think that, we talked a little bit in that bonus episode we did a while back about our favorite characters that we've played, and I would have to go back to Isawa Natsumi that I played in my first L5R game. It was a good campaign. But it was with that group that I'm not super in love with. And there were players in that game that wanted to min-max and not fail rolls. And I think there was the potential that if I hadn't been playing a character that I was truly in love with, that it wouldn't have been as fun of a game. I think I was really passionate about what I was doing with that character. It was the first time I'd really gotten to play a magic user of any kind. We know, obviously, that I fell in love with the world that we were playing in, and it was all downhill from there. And I want to point out that actually in that game, my character was devoted to stamping out blood magic.
What?
Like, that was part of her job, was to eliminate Maho users. At some point later on in the campaign, I had a decision to make, like, story-wise of, are you going to try and resurrect your dead husband or not? Yeah. And I feel like I made a critical choice at that juncture in that particular game to not resurrect my dead husband. And I like to think that now I have grown a lot as a person. I have learned a lot of things about myself, and I have started in the last few years to really accept who I am as a person. And I would like to think that I would make a different and probably better choice now to use that knife and do some blood magic.
There you go. Yeah. Change as a character.
That's the story of Isawa Natsumi.
That's amazing.
What about you, Ryan?
Mine would definitely be Mishra, hands down. Also, that bonus episode, Mishra was my favorite character. Still is. And the stories that we were telling in Heroes Unlimited at that point were really great. This was when we were in our stride, like telling some really awesome superhero stories. But she really made all the difference to me because I put that emotional investment into her backstory NPC, quote unquote. So it was like this best friend emotional connection who I decided at some point that no, my character loves this NPC more than a friend and wishes there to be more, but that can't happen if she's captured and dead. So I got to sacrifice myself to go save her. And of course, as we all know, well, as most of us know,
it didn't go well.
It did not go well. And it really made for some good drama, some good story. And I literally have not forgotten those moments leading up to that, as well as some of the roles that were done at that point to where I could have succeeded had I rolled a little bit better.
That's the beauty of role-playing, though.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It can be heartbreaking.
It really can be. And, you know, that led to me creating an audio drama episode for International Podcast Month last year, and it just kind of changed me.
Absolutely. So the next question, Ryan, is actually for you. From Chrism Phoenix. I'm sorry, I hope that I said that right. Ryan, which Ryan do you like the best? Besides yourself, because we should all like ourselves.
I do like myself.
I like you too.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Is it Ryan Reynolds?
Okay, so it's a very open-ended question, and I had a lot of time to think about this. I do like Ryan Reynolds' work. Okay. Mm-hmm. Gosling's been good in a lot of things too, but you know, not always my cup of tea. Right. I do enjoy Evil Ryan's personality. Actually.
All right.
And he is fun to converse with, even though he's evil. Mm-hmm. And it was really good getting to know him at AcadeCon.
Yeah.
So having said all of that, I'm gonna have to go with Jerry Ryan from Star Trek Voyager.
Interesting. What a left turn. Well, you heard it here, folks. Oh, speaking of which, this next question comes from Evil Ryan.
From the Prime Sauce, Evil Ryan asks, do you find it more rewarding to use a system that builds from the character's history to determine mechanics, example L5R 5th edition, using the questions to assign attributes, or to mechanically build a character and then determine a backstory from there?
Ooh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you come up with very different characters based on how you do that. So I have a soft spot for L5R, and I love the way 5th edition used the 20 questions to determine your mechanics. So you say, do you think, like, what was your character known for?
Yeah.
And that's how you pick your distinction for your character. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot because I think it makes all of your character decisions narratively meaningful.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas when you build a character and then determine a backstory, you have a character and you've certainly I think most of the time you try to make that backstory kind of match the person that you've built. Mm-hmm. But when you do it with a backstory that determines your mechanics, I think it ends up more closely aligning, I guess. Mm-hmm.
I can see that. Personally for me, I like the mechanics thing first better, because that's what I'm used to.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a very specific way of doing things.
It really is.
And I don't know that it's right for every game, and I think that a lot of games don't do it for a reason. And really, L5R is one of the few that I've seen that does it that way, where it has the questions and how you answer those really does matter to what mechanics you pick. I just think that personally it makes each decision of why do I have this skill? Mm-hmm. Because you have to say I don't know, the book's all the way over there. But there are some questions where it's if you had a positive relationship, you get honor. If you have a negative relationship, you pick a skill that sort of explains why, explains about that relationship. And so each and every skill that you have down on your page, you can go to your character's backstory and say, this is where they got that skill. I think that becomes really meaningful later on. Although some of it just never comes up, because sometimes when you have that level of detail, it's just never going to matter. Yeah, so
that's true. It does intrigue me a lot. The whole concept of your story determining your characteristics, what you're good at, and all that sort of stuff. But from a conceptual side of things, it almost feels like you lose just a little bit of control over things, even though you're making a couple binary choices here and there, and you can expand it into something story-wise. I've always liked the whole, I've got these skills. Well, why do I have these skills? And now I can kind of explain that a little bit better. But
yeah, it sort of decides the question for you as well as so you're down to two choices, this or this. But it also determines the thing that those are linked to, which maybe isn't what you wanted.
Right, exactly. It's in a roundabout way is kind of how I felt about Traveler. I had a lot of fun playing or creating characters for Traveler. But it felt like I had a lot of control taken away from me for my character's backstory.
Yeah. Yeah, you lose a lot of agency when you do some of that sometimes.
Exactly.
And it's a thing that, it definitely requires that level of buy-in, like we talked about when we do with Travelers, that you have to be okay with that.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes that's not always what you want.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. Not having complete agency was a little uncomfortable for me. And I think if I went into it without, the thought of having full agency being a thing, then I probably would have had more fun. But I still enjoyed it. And I think I still would enjoy this this interesting backstory, making your characters, like, stats and stuff appear. But,
Yeah, I think I always have to remember, just because I play this game this way doesn't mean that I have to play all games that way.
Exactly.
Right? So, we sat down and did characters for Traveler, and there was part of me that's like, oh, I don't like how random this is. But part of me is also like, this is kind of fun. And so it's like, well, you can play a game that's kind of random. Yep. And then you can also go and play a different game that's not kind of random. And it'll be okay.
That's why one-shots are so amazing, because you get to tell a complete beginning, middle, end story in a span of 3 to 4 hours and have an amazing time and get to experience new rules and all that sort of stuff. And if the game supports it, even create characters from scratch right away. Yeah,
having come off of recently playing a few short campaigns that were only 3 or 4 sessions long, I still missed, even with having more than one session, I still missed the attachment and the ability to really build on a character.
I can see that, yeah.
So, I think that you get to, try out lots of different things, and I think it's really good for assessing, is this something I'm interested in pursuing? I don't think that I got the level of, immersion and attachment and depth that I wanted.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
That's I like campaigns.
Yes.
All right, next question. Next question comes from my former best friend, Jude. Jude asks, what is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this before we recorded, because we all know Amelia's absolute wonderful love of all things Ninja Turtles.
I freaking hate Ninja Turtles. I hate them. And I want everyone to know, because I think that everyone should know what kind of jerk Jude is. Last year before Gen Con, he said, I have a present for you. And I said, what is it? He said, not going to tell you. And then I showed up and I met up with him at Gen Con, and he said, do you want your present? And I said, I don't know, do I? And he said, yes, you do. And I said, okay. And he said, you have to promise to wear it. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And he gave me a Ninja Turtle pin, which I now have on my bag because I am a good friend, unlike him. And I did promise that I would wear it. And so now this Ninja Turtle pin is on my bag.
Oh, man.
Because of that, my children think it's freaking hilarious because they know that I don't like the Ninja Turtles. So they point out all the time that I have this pin on my bag. Because of this, Eleanor picked out my Christmas tree ornament, because we each get a new one every year to put on the tree. And this year, Eleanor picked one out for me, and she picked a Ninja Turtle. So, I hate the Ninja Turtles. I've always hated the Ninja Turtles. It's just sort of like this, gut feeling that I have, because my brothers wouldn't shut up about them, and they also wouldn't let me play with them. So I hate them. And Jude will not let that go at all.
Let me turn some light on here, because there's an awful lot of shade thrown around over there.
Oh, the Ninja Turtles are the worst.
Okay, but even though you hate them, I hear tell that there is a Ninja Turtle which is most like you.
Yes. Okay, so I want you to guess.
Okay, so I've got a theory.
I want you to guess which one. So, like, this is not the one I have determined is most like me. This is the one that Jude has determined is most like me.
So my deductive thought would be most likely Raphael.
You are correct.
Yes.
So I have a Raphael pin and I have a Raphael ornament on my Christmas tree right now.
Because Raphael is the he's the one that's like kind of antagonistic, a little backstabby, a little not much of a team player in terms of
I like that I'm finding all of this out now and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
checks out.
Yep.
I want to pretend that Jude is a huge jerk for thinking all of these things about me, but he's correct. So
I mean, story checks out.
Yeah, that checks out. Okay, so what about you?
Okay, so definitely Donatello, and here's why. Okay, not only is he the smart one of the group, right? Because you should know this because you hate them so much. But
I don't know which one. I don't even know which color that one is.
Okay, so he creates all of the cool technology that the group uses. He has a purple mask, which is such a good color with the green turtle persona. And you can ask the Incredible Hulk that's a good color combo.
Okay.
On top of that, in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, he was the absolute best character to play, hands down. The reason being that everyone's weapons did about the same amount of damage, but his weapon had the reach. He could hit really far away, and he could go up onto a higher level and strike downwards and hit enemies on the level below him, which was just game breaking. And in that game, you could, if you died as a character, they got captured. So you wanted to do all the stupid stuff as like Michelangelo or Raphael because they were the worst, because their reach was like within a foot of themselves because they got the stupid dinky weapons. Yeah. So Donatello, Leonardo was pretty decent too because he had almost as good a reach. And plus he had double katanas, which was pretty sweet.
Right, obviously.
And he was the leader. And he wore a blue mask. Okay. So we have differing opinions on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. So thanks, Jude, for just bringing all that out. Just really driving a wedge between us here.
That's okay.
Ryan was so excited when this question showed up in the forum. He was like, "Oh my god, I know which one I'm going to talk about." And I was like, "You know that this is like a mean, cruel joke, right?"
Oh, I knew it from the start too. Okay, so two things that we differ on: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, cilantro.
Cilantro, I love cilantro.
I do not, because it tastes like soap because of my stupid genes.
Yep. No, cilantro's delicious. Shut up. Next question.
Okay. I won't go on a cilantro tangent. I apologize.
Okay, we're like maybe halfway through here, Ryan. We got to keep going. Okay.
This one is coming in from Justin. Justin writes, Ryan, oh, that's me. When are we getting a Dirge Stranglethorn AP series? And Amelia, as an expert on Dragon Ball Z, which is the stronger moment when Goku go Super Saiyan for the first time against Frieza, or when Gohan became Super Saiyan 2 while fighting Cell. I have no idea what any of that means, hardly.
Exactly. So here's the thing. Amelia only has friends who are trolls, and everyone knows that Amelia knows nothing about Dragon Ball Z. Amelia refuses to watch Dragon Ball Z. Amelia refuses to learn anything about Dragon Ball Z. So to answer your question, I don't care. Probably both fine.
Okay.
Or terrible. I don't know.
So I tangentially know slightly a little bit about Dragon Ball Z. And I would posit probably Goku going Super Saiyan for the first time would be the more prominent and stronger moment because it's the first time, right?
It could be.
I mean,
could be.
It's cool. It's like, what?
Listeners,
it just went to a new level.
Yeah, listeners, you can write in and tell us what you think, and I will not read your responses because I refuse to learn anything about Dragon Ball Z.
I will read them because I love everybody.
Yep. And that's our show in a nutshell. So Ryan, when are we going to get Dirge Stranglethorn AP?
Oh my God.
I will let people know that pretty soon, I'm almost done editing it. I'm so sorry. Our AcadeCon panel will be up where we did some exercises from James D'Amato's character backstory guidebook, and we learned a lot more about Dirge Stranglethorn.
Oh, so much more.
So it's not an AP series, but we will definitely be putting out a lot more information about Dirge Stranglethorn, and we are going to learn that he loves murdering and feeling things.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget the stealing.
Oh yes, murdering, stealing, and feeling things.
He's super deep.
He's got a lot going on. You guys don't even know. You don't even know.
Don't even know
the depths of Dirge Stranglethorn.
He's just misunderstood.
All right, this question comes from Polyamorous Q. Hi, Q.
Hi, Q.
If you could take a character you built on the podcast and play them in a different system than the one they were built in, which character and system would you choose?
Okay.
So, I mean, we should start with the fact that your character that you built in Masks actually was already a character from a different system.
Yeah. Originally Heroes Unlimited and converted into Masks. I thought that was really fun.
How close was Mishra in Masks to what she was in Heroes Unlimited?
Pretty darn close, actually, since we were able to create a custom ability, superpower for her. Almost, since Masks is so, like, concept generic, I guess, for each character and ability type, you can flavor it however the heck you want.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So, yeah, being able to almost directly translate into Masks what my character was in Heroes Unlimited, only a lot younger, was really interesting. Plus, it also added some backstory to Mishra that I never really had back in the day. So that was kind of cool.
I'm trying to think about this because I think this is really tough because I think that we talked a little bit at the beginning that sort of my process has been pretty heavily dependent on what kind of stories these systems are made to tell. And so I'm not sure what would still work taken out of that context, you know?
I know mine would be the star-crossed characters that Alex and I made, the magical girls.
Yeah.
I would absolutely be thrilled to take those characters out and put them into like a PBTA magical girls game. That would be remarkable.
I was actually thinking that I think it'd be fun to take my Edifice character.
Oh, yeah?
And recreate her as a druid in D&D, actually.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of fun to just like sort of build out some of those qualities.
Man, I loved our Edifice characters so much.
Oh man, those are so good.
So good. Oh my God.
Yeah, I saw in the One Shot Discord the other day somebody talking about like it'd be fun to play like this sort of game and being like, I don't know what system to play it in. And somebody else was like, psst, Edifice. And I was like, oh my God, it would be perfect. It would be so perfect. So I like, you can just do so much in that system.
Oh, I agree.
Like, Devin's got something really great there.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that one to come out.
That's awesome. Okay, so next question. I think we answered that one pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. This one comes from Tigranosaurus, which is David from Australia. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
David writes, I truly believe I carry some parts of the characters I have played with me in my real life. They are a part of who I am as a person now. It's part of the power of the hobby, I think, the way it can shape actually us through the experiences of fictional us. So his question is, have you ever had an in-game experience through one of your characters that had a transformational impact on you in real life? Please tell me that story and what it taught you.
Oof, man.
This was probably the toughest question for me.
You know, it's hard because I can think of a couple things, like a couple of times playing a game where it was like really impactful and there was a lot of bleed and things. I think the hard part is actually just explaining that. Yeah. Because I think so much of what happens at the table in a role-playing game is experiential.
And contextual.
Right. And you just end up feeling it so much more. And it's why a lot of times we want to tell people about our games and be like, this really great thing happened. And nobody is ever as excited about it as you are, because hearing about someone else's game is never as interesting as playing it, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's so hard to contextualize and to like really explain how something feels like that, because there are these moments where you're just like, holy cow.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I talked a little bit about how Natsumi was my favorite character that I'd ever played. And in that game, we had a scene where a character was married and her husband is killed in front of her. And L5R was the first time I had played like a serious game. And it was a moment that was totally unexpected. I didn't see it coming. Like, we had just rescued him and it was like, everything's going great. It's amazing. And boom, dead. And the game ended like shortly after that for the night. And the whole drive home, I was like, holy crap. I was like in shock. It was like this very powerful personal moment. And it, like, there was so much bleed that I was like so sad for this NPC.
Yeah.
That like, I felt so strongly about it. And I was so sad about it and like not sure what to think. And I remember waking up the next morning and being like, holy crap, this is what I want every game to be like from now on. I want every game to make me feel these kinds of things.
Yeah.
I want to have these strong emotional responses, because before that it had been fun, it had been silly, it had been great to hang out with people, but I had never had this like gut punch the way that I did in that game.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it was the moment where like, this is what I want every game to be like from now on. And so like, it absolutely changed what I look for in a game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My choice was probably Mishra again.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even though I saw the death coming, it was the choice leading up to the death that was so hard. It was, I knew, I think this was probably the first time that I completely dove into my character's brain and asked, what would you do?
Yeah.
And I knew that she would do whatever it takes to get her best friend and somebody that she loved so much back from the clutches of this evil wizard, right? And I think that was a little transformational as a player for me to really fully embody a character in the moment.
Yeah, to really have that immersion.
And I knew, like, my logical part of my brain was like, just don't do it and it'll work out. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, the game master is not going to kill your best friend because you choose to go with your group to fight the bad guy later to save them at the last minute, trope wise, right?
Ryan.
But okay, some game masters would. But
yours did.
No, mine didn't kill my best friend. They killed me.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Critical difference.
And the group saved her without me.
Well, that's nice.
That was nice, but
not as nice as if you'd been alive.
But then my character died and got displayed as a display of power before the final confrontation with this wizard guy. And then my character was discarded to the side before the battle like a heap of trash.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was fun. But that whole choice leading up to that moment was pretty transformational, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So David asks another question. What is one thing you wish you could go back and tell yourselves a year ago that would have made a difference to you in your first year as podcasters?
Okay, I've got a technical answer for this.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
Levelator is magic.
You only learned that like a couple weeks ago.
I have. Seriously, it was like ever since, I think it was the end of the last series, I started using Levelator for all of the episodes, and it's just been tremendously beneficial. because I don't have to worry about using the compression effects or doing normalization, because Levelator does all of that for you.
Oh, I still compress it first.
No, you don't have to.
Oh, I do.
Well, stop it.
One thing that I wish I could go back and tell a year ago, Amelia, would be, and one thing that I would tell everybody now, if you want something, just ask.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people say, like, I wish we could get this person as a guest on our podcast, or like, they'll never sit down and talk with us, or just like, oh, I want to be like in that group, like, I want to be part of the cool kids or the in crowd or whatever, you know, because I think podcasting, and for sure RPG podcasting, can be a little insular. Mm-hmm. And I've thought a lot about like why that is. And some of it is, you know, you want to work with people that are your friends. You tend to build friendships with people that have similar interests. Mm-hmm. And some of it is also like the equipment issue of like, okay, I know that these other podcasters have the equipment to do the recording and know what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. It's certainly a thing that I would like to kind of break out of a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's something I've thought about. But I also think that people need to realize the value of just asking for what you want, mm-hmm. because it's scary sometimes and it feels really daunting. And there's also a part of you that's like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. Mm-hmm. Just do it. Just ask. I think the worst anybody can say is no, right? Mm-hmm. The worst thing that will happen is that you are in the exact same spot you are in right now, mm-hmm. which is, I need a guest for this thing. I'm going to ask them. If they say no, well, I still need a guest for this thing, uh-huh. right? That is how we got on One Shot. That is how, I mean, because my understanding of the way that went was like, we put out this call and said, hey, we're looking for guests. We're trying to do this show. You know, would somebody come on our show? Alex Roberts said yes, mm-hmm. not knowing what we were about or what we were doing, but she had a game to promote. And so she said yes. She liked what we were doing. She talked to James about it. 2 months later, I reached out to James and said, hey, we want to do an episode on character voices. I really love your show. I'm a huge fan. Would you please come on our show? I understand it's okay if you're super busy. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry I asked. Okay, bye. And like thinking, James is notoriously bad at answering people's emails. He'll never write back to me, but hey, I put myself out there. Mm-hmm. And 20 minutes later, I had an email from James that was like, hey, I'd love to be on your show. Also, do you want to be on our network? You guys, I asked a question. Uh-huh. You know, that's all that any of that was us saying like, hey, we need guests. Will you come on our show? Hey, we like what you do. Will you come on our show? Mm-hmm. That is how we got to sit down with Grant. And that is, you know, how mm-hmm. we've gotten to do so many things is just from saying, hey, do you have some time? Yep. And so like, I really want to encourage people, like, if you feel like making a podcast or writing something or like whatever it is, and the only thing that's holding you up is asking somebody to help you or asking somebody for anything, just do it. Mm-hmm. Just do it. Because the worst that can happen is somebody will say, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. And then you're right back where you started. Yep.
And you know what? There are so many people out there that are willing to help, that do have time. And it's not that everybody doesn't have time. Mm-hmm. There's people out there that will be willing to help you with your project as long as you are genuine and are creating something from the heart.
Well, and I think that there are a lot of people who are also in that same position of like, we want to do something. Yeah. You know, like Alex had her game to promote. The timing worked out really well with Grant mm-hmm. because they were doing the Kickstarter for Strata. Yeah. You know, there are a lot of people that also want to be on a podcast, you know? And mm-hmm. so like, I think it's good to remember that it goes both ways too. Mm-hmm. Like people are helping you and you're helping them, and it can be a mutually beneficial thing, but somebody has to make that first move.
And it's all about the friends you make along the way. Right.
And the friends we made along the way. Yes. Uh-huh. I mean, I'm so much more outgoing than I was even a year ago, though. Like, I feel so much more confident. And, like, I wish that a year ago me would know how life-changing this has been,
yes.
too.
Absolutely. And I also feel 100% more confident. Going to AcadeCon in 2017 versus going in 2018, Like
totally different experience.
A million
right?
times different. Oh my gosh.
I mean, same thing with like Gen Con 2017 and Gen Con 2018.
Yeah.
In 2018, I wasn't even running anything. I was on the one-shot panel. But that was it. And it was still just like a totally different experience. Like,
yeah.
Oh, God, it's so good. It's so good. Make the thing, you guys. Make the thing.
Do the thing. Be awesome.
Do the thing.
Yes.
Just do it.
Just do it.
This podcast sponsored by Nike.
Not really, but we'll talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call us Nike. Maybe we should reach out. We should just ask. What's the worst they can do is say no.
Would you like to sponsor a role-playing podcast that's about creating characters and being your best selves?
Nike, I want you to know that I spend a lot of time recording in yoga pants, so
just
call me.
There you
do it.
Awesome. All right. Next question. David again asks, when will we get the Ryan Clicky and exasperated Amelia soundboard that we so desperately need?
Send us the timestamps and we will pull them out. Seriously, if somebody wants to write them down, I will go through and pull them out. I don't want to look for them. For Garbage of the Five Rings, at one point, because we're only a couple episodes in, I have started like saving clips of every time we've been like, ugh, I hate this game. And putting them in like a master cut. And so that's like amazing. If people wanted to send us the timestamps for these things and like what episodes they're in, I could spend some free time pulling them out. I don't know how to make a soundboard app, but I'm willing to pull the audio.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was thinking about that just earlier. If I could figure out how to program an app, maybe that soundboard thing could happen eventually. My goodness, that would be a lot of fun.
Ryan, this next question is for you.
Ooh.
This comes from Colin McGinnis, who says, I seem to recall Ryan saying computer programming is his day job. What tool or tools has he coded in his free time to assist with character creation? I would imagine Palladium lends itself well to this type of tool. Full disclosure, in my high school days in the early 90s, I wrote a character generator for TSR's Marvel Superheroes Advanced game in Pascal.
Oh my God. This is probably the nerdiest question we'll ever get. And I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so 90s Ryan was tangentially interested in computer programming. Mostly just computer usage, I guess, from 94 onwards, because I got my first computer in 94. I did get into a little bit of programming in 97 and 98, I believe, when I did a little bit of modding for Quake using Quake C, which was an offshoot of the C programming language. I had, before it got really raunchy, I had played Furcadia for a while. And in that game, you build your own maps and you are able to program the maps using a custom programming language. So I did that a lot as well. But this is about character creation. Now that you know my history a little bit of programming. In college, since I went to college for computer science with a professional emphasis at UW Oshkosh, for those keeping tabs of where my life was.
Woo, UWO.
Yeah.
Not for computer programming, but I did go there.
Uh-huh.
UW 0.
Hey, it was an accredited computer programming program, which was very nice. So
yeah. It was I liked it. I enjoyed my time there.
Oh, it was a wonderful college. Now that we're done plugging UW Oshkosh.
In Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oshkosh.
Beautiful, scenic Algoma Boulevard.
Isn't that where they have Oshkosh Bigosh?
It is.
It is, listeners.
It is. You heard it here, folks. We went to the school in the city known for overalls.
Which I used to wear as a child.
Every kid did, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Every kid did.
Pretty much. Okay, to get to the question.
Sorry.
So I actually started creating a Palladium character generator that would generate stats. And I believe you could input like skills and percentages and stuff in it. But this was in DOS, and it was with I think it was even DOS Basic or something, or batch program. I don't know. It was something stupidly like basic. It didn't do that much. I didn't get that far in it. And I don't think I ever want to do it again because, okay, Palladium is so complex.
Well, there's so many books. Like, how do you input all of that stuff to be, like, that's a lot.
That's true. The closest I got, okay, I created my own character sheet for Palladium, like a generic Palladium character sheet that could span any Palladium role-playing game, because they're all the same in the back end regardless. And I turned that character sheet, which was just a print and write on it sheet at one point, I turned it into a form-fillable PDF with calculations between all the different forms. And I believe I even had a level up script in there where you could level up your character with the click of a button. And then it would go and update all of the percentages for all of your skills, which you remember, Amelia, the skill.
Yeah, don't love it.
Skill percentages. And
it'd be nice to have a program that does that, yeah.
And every skill does a different percentage per level. Yeah, it would be a nightmare to level up characters in that game. And it was. So yeah, this would go through and tally all of that for you, which was really nice. Okay, next one. Okay, so this one comes from our best friend, Jude.
Your best friend, Jude. He's not my best friend anymore.
Jude writes us, completely unrelated to any other question. When will you be reviewing the Palladium Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle role-playing game?
Never. Over my dead body.
Okay, so let me posit this to you though. It's not about turtles. It's not about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Because we talked about like pelicans and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's all mutant animals, right?
Right, because they didn't have the rights.
Right. Well, They did at that point, the TMNT one, but then they lost the rights after that game was created and after a while, and then they pulled the rights into Heroes Unlimited, right?
Gotcha.
And I think Rifts has a little bit of it too. But if we were going to do character creation for mutant animals in the Palladium role-playing game system, I would say we would have to do it with After the Bomb 2nd edition, which I believe is almost all mutant animals. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, where like radiation and stuff and magic has kind of, altered people into like these hybrid animal human things, I think. I don't know. It's really weird.
Or we could just not ever look at Palladium again.
I mean, that's an option.
Or you and Jude could be best friends and you guys can play the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game.
Okay. Hey, Jude, if you would like to come on at some point for bonus content to create some mutant animals together, I'd be totally down for that.
I would not.
I understand your position, Amelia, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. At least someone does. This is what it looks like when you have a friend that respects you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Jude, I'm not sorry. Make it a policy on our other podcast to never apologize. So I refuse to apologize.
Uh-huh.
This next question is from Aaron, who says, do you have any tips for helping people playing in one-shots, con games, and open game nights to quickly feel connected and invested in their characters? Yes, I do. First of all...
what are those tips?
First of all, don't be friends with Jude. Aaron, don't do it. It's too late, but that's fine. Secondly... I would say if you're the one running the game and you are providing preset characters, try and allow people to make some decisions about their characters. If you are the one playing the character, try and make some decisions about your character. So I think this can be a little bit tough, especially if you're playing a game that you haven't really played before.
Yeah.
But if you can, try and take a look at your character sheet and see if you can get a grasp of who your character is and see if there are a few things that you can kind of try and add to personalize your character or things that you can kind of pull in and, you know, like make notes about on your character sheet. Even if it's really simple things like saying, I think this would be this character's favorite food or something like that. Just try and pull in like little personality things to help the character feel a little bit more your own.
Yeah.
I think also it's going to depend on the GM, but I think if you can sort of inject ideas about like what a room looks like or what the setting looks like as you're playing, to kind of offer things to personalize it. I think those are really good ways to help you feel more invested in the world and in the game, because I think that you get to feel like you are participating in it, not just watching it happen.
Yeah, and I would add upon that, if a game that you're going to play supports collaborative world building as part of the experience, and creating characters as part of the one-shot experience, that's pretty much an instant guaranteed in to caring about your character. It's effectively like a magic bullet of RPG one-shots, because you are investing your time and creativity into creating this world and these characters, and also the bonds that you're creating together with everybody else at the table. It's just magic, is what I keep saying. Collaborative world building is just magic when it comes to getting invested in the game that you're about to play.
Absolutely. Strong agree.
Yeah. But pre-gen characters, adding your own quirks to the character might help. Like, even if it's just some sort of like personality thing that's not like backstory related, that might be interesting. If bonds with the other characters at the table aren't called out, maybe before you start playing, take a moment to establish some bonds. If it's not like, breaking the game master's planned one-shot adventure.
Right. Do what you can without being disruptive, obviously. And
always involve the game master before you start doing these sorts of things, because you never know. Characters from pre-gens, they could be designed very specifically with intent to tell a certain story as they are presented. Some GMs are just like, I just did a random character and this is what I got. And so it's probably fine if you alter a few things.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes. So Kevin Brown submitted 7 questions. It feels like we've covered 2 of them already, so in the interest of time, we'll just skip those 2. But the first one that Kevin submitted was, what game system was the most unexpectedly fun to create characters in?
Ooh.
I like it.
Interesting. Unexpectedly fun. I mean, I feel like I expected most of them to be fun.
Well,
except Palladium.
Well, there's fun and there's like beyond fun.
I want to say, actually, for me, I think Spire was the most unexpectedly fun, because I'd played that game, but I had not built characters in it yet.
Oh, interesting.
So I knew that I was going to love it. I think I loved it more than I thought I would.
That's awesome.
It was so much. It's such a good game.
Yeah.
I love that game. Oh, so good. So good.
Spire is a very good choice for that. I was thinking Traveler.
Oh, yeah.
Because the losing the choice, the losing the agency in a lot of it was such a drag during the process. But like afterwards, I was like, I want to redeem this person. Like, I care so much about this person who's been failing time after time after time in their life.
Yeah.
I want them to have like the Cinderella story moment. I want them to get up and have their moment to shine. Yeah,
I could see that. That's an interesting one, because I think, you lose so much of your agency in the character building process that I could definitely see being like, okay, now I have to like, now I really need to start getting my hands dirty and like do this thing, Yeah. Like, I have failed you, my sweet child.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. It's not bad.
So here's a different kind of question than one we've had before. What kind of NPCs do you enjoy interacting most with during a game?
My thought is probably the most enjoyable ones are the ones that are potential romantic interests for my character.
Yes. Okay, so I was going to go back to the Grant Howitt school of thinking of at least 60% of NPCs need to be just so kissable.
That's true.
And I was thinking that because I've been playing Fallout again. Playing Fallout 4. And I find it frustrating that there are some NPCs that you can romance and some that you can't. And I just think that you ought to be able to romance all of them. Why are there NPCs in a game that I cannot smooch?
You know, I'm sure there's a mod for that.
Probably.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I almost guarantee it.
In Fallout, it's at least 60%, I'm pretty sure.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah. More smoochable NPCs.
Yeah, more smoochable NPCs.
That is my 2020 campaign promise right there, friends. More smoochable NPCs.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, no, it's interesting because it just adds a depth to play that I've always really enjoyed, and even going back like decades, technically, I've always enjoyed interacting with them. But also close friends and mentors, I guess, is my second answer to that.
No, just more smooching.
More smooching. I guess close friends or mentors that you can smooch.
More, yes, okay. It's Antrim Bolter 2020, more smoochable NPCs. Sorry, Ryan, you're VP now.
What can go wrong?
All right, next question.
All right. What is this one's come from Kevin again, of course.
Yep.
What is the most fun, but not necessarily useful thing that you like to add or create for NPCs?
Smooching. No, I like to add funny names.
That makes sense.
I mean, I guess it depends on the game.
Yeah.
But I do like NPCs to have interesting names because I like them to be memorable. Mm-hmm. I also I don't run a lot of games, but I like when the NPCs have distinct voices. Mm-hmm. My prior GM from my group that I was not a super huge fan of, he had one NPC voice, and every NPC was Danny DeVito.
That's amazing.
So that shop seller, that shopkeep in Shadowrun, yep. And the captain of the guard in D&D, Danny DeVito.
Yep.
That beautiful princess, Danny DeVito. So I like them to have maybe something a little more distinct.
Now I want to watch a movie that is Danny DeVito plays everybody.
So it's like an Eddie Murphy film with Danny DeVito. Yeah,
exactly. I was thinking just that way, only cross-genre like action flick where everybody is played by Danny DeVito.
Oh my gosh, let's play Everyone is Danny DeVito. I'll brush up on my Danny DeVito voice, and then we can play a game of Everyone is John, except everyone is Danny. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Danny DeVito, if you're listening, please call us.
Call us, Danny.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. Okay.
For me, I roll up personality quirks sometimes, like in D&D or whatever, because they have those helpful, like, random personality quirk tables.
Yeah.
The last time I did that.
Love random tables.
Yeah, the last time I did that, though, it backfired.
Oh, boy.
Because the NPC was just always generally a nervous person. They have this habit of just constantly, like, wringing their hands or whatever and just looking around and whatnot. It's just a quirk of their personality, but all of the players were convinced that they had something really to hide. It's just like, no, that's just the way they are. So sorry.
I can't help it. Sorry, the random table set.
Yep. I thought it would be interesting. Like, we'll just add some of these random quirks to some of the NPCs that they encounter, and it'll be kind of fun to add a little bit of spice. And they're like, what? He's up to something. Like, well, maybe, but I don't know.
Maybe not.
If I hadn't been I had been in the mindset of GM plans the whole story out sort of thing, and classic 90s GM that I no longer wish to aspire to. Not that it's not a valid form of gameplay.
Just not your jam.
It's not my jam anymore. Yeah. I love the collaboration.
For sure.
Yeah. Maybe that quirk would have turned into the players being nervous and like wondering what the heck he's up to, and then maybe he was up to something.
Maybe he finally gains their trust.
Maybe.
And then at the last moment, boom, backstab.
Yes.
But that's not you either, so.
Yeah.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. I mean, if there's a dirge, there's a way.
That old saying. Kevin also asked, what is the craziest / funniest thing you've ever done with a character at the table?
Oh, I've got to...
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, Heroes Unlimited, because of course.
Uh-huh.
Let's set the stage a little bit. A nuclear bomb was going to go off in the middle of New York City. Not a good thing, so we had to disable it.
I'm sorry, back up. A nuclear bomb in New York City was not a good thing?
Right. That's, from our perspective, not a good thing.
Okay.
So, okay.
You kind of lost me, but I'll bear with you.
So suspend your disbelief here a little bit.
Okay.
So our mission was to disable it before it went off, obviously. And I had a physical training hero, who I forget the name of. Mm-hmm. And physical training's the person that, like, literally trains themselves so hard that they push themselves past the normal human limits.
Okay, so they're like the Usain Bolt.
Yeah, they're like not super powered, but they're like super buff and super powerful. Gotcha. But at a more human level. Okay. Uh-huh. So he jumped about 100 feet out of the helicopter. Okay. To get to the bomb. Took minor SDC damage hitting the ground. Dusted himself off. Ran to the bomb. And punched it a bunch of times. Uh-huh. Because if you break the SDC, you break the device. As somebody,
don't try this at home, kid.
As somebody was already working to disable the bomb, but I was the stupid, like, person of the party that was like, I gotta be the hero. So I had to run in and be stupid, even though it was being taken care of. So my character, unprotected, got radiation sickness from punching this bomb that has nuclear stuff inside of it. Yeah. And I failed all of my saving throws. And my character died in the hospital.
How did you die? I punched a nuclear bomb.
And it gave me radiation poisoning. You see, you leave off the last part, and it's like, I punched a nuclear bomb, and that's how my character died.
Right. But it's not the explosion. It's just... unprotected against radiation. Yep. Oh man. And it was just regular size.
And it was like 5 saving throws that I failed all in a row.
Oh, Ryan,
it was the worst. So bad.
Oh my god.
Side note, that was one of the characters in the 5-month period of characters dying. Every section.
Oh gosh. Man, I'm trying to think. So I think in my D&D game there were like 2 things that happened, because my character was just like I was just like, I don't care what we're doing in this game. I don't care what we came to do. I'm going to do whatever I want. So at one point it was decided between myself and another character that if you killed something simultaneously, if you both got the killing blow on the thing at the same time, that meant you were married. So... he was the prince of something, and I was just this fighter who was also a lesbian. But we were married, and we kept insisting it was for tax purposes. And then later on, there was a duel. We were at some party or something, and there was like this princess who is dueling people for the right to win her hand in marriage. And I thought, well, I can do that. So I dueled her and I won. So then I was married at the same time to both a prince and a princess. And then shortly after that, I killed a dragon. Yeah. And I had its skull turned into a bed so that I could take both my prince and princess to bed in my beautiful dragon skull bed.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was one of my cooler moments. I was like, yeah, I think I'm playing this game correctly. I dueled a princess to win her hand in marriage. I'm accidentally married to a prince, and I'm sleeping in the head of a dragon. See, I think that this is how you play D&D.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've never tried it before, but I think that I'm doing it right.
That sounds like a fantastic experience, though. My goodness. I guess to get there was probably the... Yeah,
I mean, like, the game itself was not great, but, like, this was in the space of, like, I think 1 session.
It's not about the journey, it's the destination.
Right. I think that I was playing correctly.
Yes. I will.
I can't be sure, but I think.
As an apt D&D connoisseur, I would say you were.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Next question. Last question by Kevin Brown. What is your favorite resource to tap when creating characters as a GM and as a player?
The rule book. Man, I think that for me, it's not a specific resource. I think it is just the wealth of knowledge that I have gained from trying out and reading a lot of different rule books. I think this is something that we talked about in our lessons learned episode, and something that we have certainly brought up that Phil and Senda talk a lot about. But this idea of being polygamorous.
Yep.
Polygamorous.
Embrace it.
Yeah, I think that really the best resource you can have is knowing how to do these things in other systems, because I think that you gain this ability to say, there are lots of times in games where you're like, something about this just isn't working for me. And that's where we sort of start making house rules and things. But I think that the more games that you play and the more systems that you've had your fingers in, the easier it is to kind of pull those things from other places rather than having to make them up yourself. Oh, yeah. And I also think that you become better at recognizing why something doesn't work because you know why it did work somewhere else.
Mine was naming resources.
Oh, yes. We should put it in the show notes for this episode, but I have an absolute favorite name book. That I use, that I have kept specifically. I bought it to name my kids, but I have kept specifically for naming RPG characters because the back of the book has a whole section that groups names by type. So it has like French names, androgynous names, like frilly sounding girls' names, classic boys' names, like things like that. And they're grouped by type. So it's really easy to be like, I want a name that's kind of like this. Yeah. Or that has like this sort of feel to it. But it also has in the front of the book, it lists the name and then it has names that are like, if you like this name, you might also like these kinds of names. Fancy. As opposed to just being like, oh, Emily, you can also do Amelia and, or like Catherine, here's the 12 spellings of Catherine, Kathy, Kate, whatever. But it has like, if you like this name, you may also like these names that have a similar feel. Yeah. It's called the Baby Name Wizard. Oh, nice. But we'll put an Amazon link in the show notes because it is the absolute best resource. That book is falling apart because I use it for everything.
That's awesome.
It's so good.
Yeah, and I like looking at name meanings and kind of picking off of that as well.
Yes, definitely. Character naming is hard.
Yeah. Well, there was one question that Kevin asked, the genre system. Do we look forward to doing it on the show? Maybe not genre, but is there a book that, or a system that you want to cover that,
man, there are so many. Like, I don't even know where to start with that question. We have such a long list and like, gosh, yes, probably.
Yeah. Well, I put kind of Numenera near the top.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to do Numenera soon. Yeah. I really want to cover, the Bright system, particularly the version that they're doing on Autonomic right now. Nate and I were just talking about that today too. He said, I've never played the Bright system. And I said, yeah, because it's only been around for a while.
Not many people have yet.
Not many people have. And he's like, I've played that one with No Thank You Evil. And I was like, the Cypher system. And he's like, yeah. How many systems are there? And I said, oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy.
So many.
Oh,
so
buddy.
Many. Oh, buddy.
So many.
So many. Yeah, I definitely think Numenera. I definitely want to do the Bright system. Yeah. I think there's a number of them out there for sure.
Oh, yeah. We've got...
there are very few that I don't want to do.
We have well over 60 still on our list, so...
Yeah.
We're not going to run out anytime soon.
And people keep rating games, darn it.
I know. I just thought of 2 new ones since, like, the last time we actually recorded, I think.
Yeah, I know. Stupid. People need to slow down. I got to catch up.
I know. I need to slow down.
All right. I think this is our last question.
Last question.
From Anonymous.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's why we left that field optional.
Absolutely. Have you ever considered doing an Evolution Cast episode about how to power game without sacrificing role-playing or storytelling? Yes. I have considered that.
Yeah. I don't remember if I have before now, but I do now.
Yeah. So there you go. No, I don't entirely know how we would do it. For me, a lot of our Evolution Cast episodes, when I'm trying to come up with ideas, a lot of those ideas center around people that I would want to talk to do those episodes. Because I think that I get a lot of ideas just from knowing who we would talk to because it kind of gives me an angle to go at with the questions. I think that power gaming is something that I definitely want to cover because it's something that comes up a lot when we talk about games. And it's also something that comes up a lot in reviews that we hear from people that they thought that our show would be about how to like power game in particular systems. And people are always kind of surprised and for the most part, delighted to find out that that is not what we do. But it's definitely an area of character creation that we have not really talked a lot about, and one that is pretty prominent and talked about a lot in a lot of other ways. So I definitely think it's something that we'd like to cover at some point. I'm just not sure exactly how we would go about it, like what kind of angle we would take and who we would want to talk to about it.
Yes.
But it's definitely a gap, I think, that we have not filled yet.
I mean, I myself used to be a prominent power gamer.
Oh, yeah. I bet that.
And I still get the itch every now and then, but right now I'm...
Yeah, I think it definitely has a place. I think that sometimes there's a really good feeling about knowing that you are the best at something.
Yeah, exactly. And min-maxing, that's always fun for me. But it's just the matter of I love story now so much, and the character interactions, the character bonds, and even exploring the darker side of character interactions and whatnot, thanks to Amelia and Dirge.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that kind of proves it, though, is that it'd be really good to do an episode about how you can have power gaming without sacrificing.
Absolutely.
That.
Absolutely.
So yeah, to answer the question, Anonymous, I think that is something that we've thought about, and it's something that we definitely want to do. We're just not sure how yet. But eventually,
we'll get there.
Look forward to that at some point.
It is definitely going to be on our list, so yes, I'm looking forward to it. That's
all of the questions.
Yeah, that is all the questions that we had.
We did it. Man, this was a good discussion. These were really good questions.
They were.
Thank you to everybody who sent them in. Thank you guys for a wonderful year. I'm still absolutely blown away about what this show has become.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened without everybody listening to it. It would just be Ryan and I shouting into the void. Not that we wouldn't have done that anyway, but I think it wouldn't have been nearly as fulfilling or nearly as fun. And I mean, I can't say thank you enough to everybody who has listened to the show, everybody who has sent in a review or has talked with us on our Discord or on Twitter or on Facebook, wherever, at cons when we've been there. Just thank you so much to everyone who has helped make this show what it is. It has been an absolutely amazing journey. I'm having so much fun. I can't wait to do it for another year. Like, thank you.
And as usual, I agree with absolutely everything Amelia just said.
Some things never change.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this special episode. Really enjoyed all the questions that you got to us. And as Amelia said, we love interacting with you online. Feel free to always hit us up on Twitter, on our Discord, wherever. If you want to send us an email, we have an email form for that as well. We just love hearing from you. And if we have time, we'll actually talk back if you're not creepy. You know?
Yeah, hey people, don't be creepy, and we'll be not creepy also.
We covered that in our romance episode, I believe.
We did. Don't be a creep. Rule number 1.
Don't be a creep.
Don't be a creep.
But seriously, though, we love all of you, and we love having you with us every week. So don't forget, go out there and make some amazing people.
We'll be back next week.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts and guests, or even some of our character sheets. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you like the systems discussed and wish to purchase them, links to the products can be found in the show notes. Also, check the notes or the website for cool stuff to go with each character, such as dice or mixtapes. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
Waveforms.
They're waveforms.
I have waveforms. They're waving and forming.
Tiny,
They're waveforms.
tiny devious waveforms.
Tiny waveforms.
We just went back to
It's like if you speak
1952.
whale.
Well, I guess that too. Thinking of those old like dialy things that make the sound.
Oh, yeah. They look like a good guy. It sounds like a theremin. That's the word.
Yeah, the theremin.
The theremin. It's very exciting. It's a theremin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't make the sound with my mouth, actually, though. I don't think that's what it sounds like.
You're probably right.
Okay.
Actually, you're definitely right.
Yeah, I know. I'm always right.
Just think of the old Doctor Who episodes.
Ooh. I haven't watched any of the new season.
Although every single time I think of the opening for that, I can only think of the opening for the original series of Star Trek.
What is wrong with you?
Ooh. Plus, always, what is it? Superman theme song from the old 80s movies I mix up with Indiana Jones.
What?
Bless you. And, what was the other one? There was another one. I don't remember. Same composer, though. So that's probably why. It has the same musical language to both of them. So that makes sense. Okay, so do you want me to read my opener thing that I wrote?
Sure, you can read your opener thing, and then I'll interrupt you and throw you off, and it'll be just like old times.
Just like every episode.
Yeah.
What? All right, I'll do a quick, I need my waveforms. I can't do anything if I don't see my waveforms. I've got a problem.
And the only cure is more waveforms. Or a cowbell messing up your waveforms.
I've got a fever. The only prescription is more waveforms.
That was a pretty good walk-in. I'm impressed.
Thanks. It's one of the few impressions that I do.
Very nice. I can do an impression of you. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I'm Ryan, and I'm just so gosh darn nice. That's my impression of you.
That's awesome.
That's nice. Oh, bless you, Ryan.
I've got a Christopher Walken impression and an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that's the extent of my impressionism, if that's even a thing.
Impressionism is an artistic movement.
It really is. I know. I learned about that in art history.
Isn't that Monet? I think Monet was an impressionist.
Was it? Yeah, I think you're right. I get the impression that you're correct. Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, let's episode.
Get to the chopper. Okay. That's all I got.
Get to the episode.
Get to the episode. We got to answer some questions.
We should put some explosions in the background, too.
Says it, Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay directed this episode of Character Creation Cast. Coming at you.
Better than M. Night Shyamalan.
That's true.
What a twist. I'm not old enough to run for
You
president.
are not. Well,
2028. 2020. Not that I've thought about it at all, but 2028, friends, I will be old enough to run for
no,
president.
that's true. Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Darn it.
Yeah.
Missed it by a year, I think, right?
Yep.
Stupid laws.
Is it, I guess when you're sworn in, though?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I guess maybe I could.
I think you might be able to. That would be the youngest.
You got to be 35.
Ooh.
88.
2024.
2024. I don't know. I feel like doing math. Okay. Anyway.
If you don't feel like doing math, you probably don't feel like running the nation.
No, I got people for that.
Yeah, there you go.
Look, I'm not running for Fed chair.
Yes.
Okay.
More role-playing in school.
Now we got to read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs. Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like Neoscum.
Neoscum is a narrative comedy podcast featuring 5 Chicago improvisers antagonizing their way through the role-playing classic Shadowrun. It follows a group of misfits and outsiders: Z, the acerbic cyber troublemaker; Pox, the candy junkie klepto from across the pond; Tech Wizard, the public access actor with a petulant thirst for adventure; and Dak Rambo, the nastiest trucker this side of the Robo-Mason-Dixon. Join the irascible Neoscum crew on a puerile rockin' road trip through a weirdo world of tomorrow, doling out street justice to every deeb they encounter, whether they deserve it or not.